Hi everyone, it's Deb again, and today we're going to work in prone or face down. This is a position where I know a lot of you are not comfortable, but I would highly recommend it. A couple of reasons. Number one, you may end up in this position not intentionally, and you need to know that it's not necessarily a bad thing. You can use it in your favor. So one of the first things I tell people is just get in a prone position, get your legs stretched out. A lot of you are extremely tight in the hip flexors, and if you stop and think about this, just laying in this position is going to help bring you more neutral. I highly recommend that you bring the hands so that they're up above the shoulders and chin or forehead on the hands, just like this. And the reason I want you there is because anytime you raise the arms up, you automatically reposition the rib cage. That changes your shoulder position, that opens that up, changes the rib cage, and just lie there. That's your first thing to do, is to just get in this position and just stay there. Before you do anything else, assess. Are my hips tight? Do I feel it in my low back? Do I feel it in my neck? Do I feel it in my shoulders? Do I feel it in my feet? With regard to the feet, notice the position of your feet. A lot of you will want to be out here. Some of you will be here. Some of you will want to go up on your toes. Where I want you is big toes touching, heels falling out. Here's why. It changes the position of the hips, allows the lumbar spine to kick in and work some of those rotators in the hips. A lot of you will notice that there's more contact with one foot than the other with the floor. What that says to me is, and what that tells you, is the foot where there's less contact, that's the tighter hip, all right? And I want you to do that ahead of time, because what's gonna happen is, as we go through this, you'll notice the changes. Going back to what I always say, your range of motion is always directly related to your functional ability, and we want right, left, front, back, medial, lateral, or inside, outside to all be as equal as possible, so we have to constantly work for that. So the first thing you're going to do is to get in this position, big toes touch, heels falling out, and you're just going to stay there. Stay there long enough to assess from feet to head, all right? Now, if it's too much for your neck, go here, because you're still going to get benefit. You're going to get more benefit with the head up into the cervical paraspinals, but if you need to and it's too much of a challenge, I want you to go here. All right, the next thing you're going to do, and you're going to stay here, and I'm going to lift my head up just so that I can talk to you. So you're going to be in this position, and we're just going to roll those hips slowly right to left. Now, as easy as this sounds, it's not. Most of you will really struggle with this. The legs cannot play a part in this. It's all in the hips. You have to work those muscles underneath the glute, those external rotators. It's like you're rolling onto the side of the hip. Again, why is that movement important? A lot of things you do, getting in and out of the car, the shower, things like that, involve those external rotators, stepping up over something. So you've got to make sure that you use muscles in the core, which is your hips in this case, all right? And go side to side. Now, in the beginning, if you have low back issues, you may feel it, but what you'll notice is the more that you go right to left, that tightness is going to diminish and your range of motion is going to increase, all right? So you're just going to go side to side, nice and slow. You're going to keep those legs out of it. Make sure the hips are doing the work. And most of you will notice that one side's easier than the other. That's because you've usually got rotation issues and you're always going to one direction or the other, whether that's clockwise or counterclockwise. So after you do side to side, all right, then what I want you to do is I want you to, if you're here I want you to bring your head to this position. If you're here, I want you to just lift your head up. So depending on where you are, we'll tell you the next step. Again, if you're on your forehead, the next position is chin up. In other words, this is a process. If your chin is on your hands and you're comfortable with that, then the next thing I want you to do is lift your head off of your hands. You're going to hold that. Think about where your shoulders are. They shouldn't be up on your ears. They should be back and down. And when you're shortening the backside, again, this is core. This is paraspinals, all the way from occipital ridge to your tailbone. Right now it's more upper mid, but that's where we start. And then you're going to come down and you're going to do that several times. Again, if you're here, then we're just going to raise the head, bring the shoulders back. Now, some of you may notice I feel it in the front of my hips. That's a good thing. Those hip flexors are getting released and stretched out. If you notice, the more you do, the less tug you have on the front side. You may even start to feel it in low back. In other words, those muscles are stabilizing. This is a hip and low back stabilizer, stabilizing your spine, and you may even start to feel it in the glutes. That would be a really good thing. So you're going to do that several times. Again, when it gets challenging, we're just going to do at least 3 or 4 more. That's how we get stronger. That's how we gain endurance. We're going to hold that. And then come down. And again, if you're here, we're just going to go to here and hold. All right. We're going to lift the head off of the hands. And you're going to hold that. And if it bothers you at the back of your neck, what you're going to notice is the more you do, the less intense or the less tug you've got. But that also means you've got more stability. Fatigue, I'm not concerned about that. That just means you're working muscles and they're getting stronger. So do several of those. Again, you have to gauge what your body can handle. Challenge, don't force. Once it gets challenging, and that doesn't mean if it's challenging in the beginning, and that's okay. Just make sure you do at least 3 or 4 that are even more challenging, and then rest and come back to it, all right? Because people always say, how many do I need to do? My question to you is, how fast do you want to get to a new normal? So if you decide, hey, I want my head, neck, shoulder integrity to be there, and you decide to do this 3 times a day, good for you. This position should be comfortable, not a challenge, all right? Because this is neutral. I don't have any more tightness on the front side than I do the back. All right, so we're going to do that several times. So the head comes up, my shoulders go back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my upper body a rest, and I'm going to go to the lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my legs straight. My fulcrum point is my glute. Again, should be one of the strongest muscles in the torso besides the paraspinals. And I'm going to lift that leg. And if you notice, my leg's not bent. It's straight. My foot faces straight down. And then I'm going to lower. Now when you lower, don't plop it down. Also, I recommend that you do this either barefoot or in socks. Shoes are always going to restrict you in a number of ways. You're going to take it from the hip and you're going to lift and you're going to lower. You're going to hold it several seconds. This is, if you feel yourself turning, you need to stop. It's not, if you can't lift that leg without rotating, we need to just do this. As long as those glutes are getting fired, that's the main thing. As soon as you bend the knee, now it's into the hamstring and we don't have the glute anymore. So we want that glute to fire. So you're going to lift as far as your body will let you without rotating. Toes facing down, top of the foot facing down, and lower. Some of you may feel when you engage the quad and straighten the leg, you're getting a stretch on your hamstring. I'm okay with that. And this happens because when muscles start contracting appropriately, they kind of resist because they're not used to it. Start getting a little cramp or whatever, just roll around side to side a little bit, get rid of it. Dorsiflex in the foot, that helps too, especially if it's in the calf. and then start again, because the more your body gets used to it, you won't have that anymore. But also make sure you got plenty of magnesium and hydration. That always plays a factor as well. So we're going to lift, and we're going to lower. We're going to control that, because in gait, that glute is what brings that back. And we're going to lower, and we're going to lift, and we're going to lower. Now make sure that you're not out here somewhere or crossed over midline. Your hips will tell you that, because you'll feel them come off the floor if you're in rotation. There shouldn't be any gap between the front of the hip and the floor, just so you know that. And the other thing too, if there is in the beginning, you'll notice that that gap closes because you're shortening again the back side, so that means the front side has to lengthen. So after you do that leg extension, hip extension on both sides, then what we're going to do is we're going to do a hamstring curl. Now when you do a hamstring curl, I want you to go slow. A lot of you are going to be over here. Look what happens to my hip when I do that. That heel needs to be in line with the outside of your sit bone. Dorsiflexed, because this is a position that you are in gait. All right? And then we're going to drop it down. I highly recommend that you stay on the same side before you switch, because you can focus on what's really going on rather than switching side to side. So we're just going to keep our head in whatever position you're comfortable with, and again, try to make progress. Slowly we're going to take that heel to the buttocks. You should not feel your hips come off the floor. What that tells me is you get your hip flexors are too tight, there's too much going on the front side. Because again, if the back side is shortening, the front side should lengthen. So you're going to lift and lower, you're going to do one side at a time. By doing it unilaterally or one-sided, now you can really pick up on any rotation that's going on. All right? I'm just going to come up, and I'm going to drop. I'm going to lift. I'm going to drop. And again, I'm going to do that on both sides. Now what I'm going to do is work on lateral hip a little bit. Most of you inappropriately activate the muscles in the lateral hip because there's so much rotation going on. So we're going to work on that. So again, whatever head position that you're comfortable in, again, and this is the goal, is here, is we're going to lift and we're going to open it to the side. Again, notice my foot position. I'm not here. I'm not rolling my hips. And I'm going to come back in and I'm going to lower it. So I'm adding to what we've already done. I'm going to lift and I'm going to open. Really working on the tensor and those secondary muscles under the hip, the external rotators working together, because 100% of you, those external rotators are contracted inappropriately, always tight, or they're very weak, one of the two. And you're going to lift, again, toe faces down. See that? And then we're going to bring it back, and we're going to lower. And we're going to lift. We're going to open without rolling, okay? If you feel like you're opening so far that your hips have to roll, then don't go as far, all right? Again, always make sure that your form and your technique follow the function that you want. We want to keep out of rotation. If you're hula hooping, that's another story. And bring it back and lower. And again, at this point, you should really feel that in the glutes. That needs to be stronger. And some of you, when you open, not only will you feel it here, some of you may feel it on the inner thigh stretching. Again, that's perfectly fine. And you're going to bring it back and down. And lift, and open, and bring it back, and down, slow and controlled. That torso should be nice and still, have lots of integrity. Bring it back, and down. And again, numbers-wise, until it's hard, and you can do 3 or 4 more in good technique. So that's where we're going to start with our sequence in prone, and good luck with that. And don't be afraid of getting face down, because it's something that everybody needs to do, and just the gravity itself will help open things up. See you soon.